New Year's resolutions suck. No, I'm not saying that your New Year's resolutions are garbage or that mine is. I'm actually going out on a limb and saying that the entire category is a scam.
Hey Dwight, I'm collecting resolution cards.
Not doing that.
Why not?
I've achieved plenty, and there's no better than the best.
So why is it, despite the fact that New Year's resolutions don't seem to work for anyone, that we fall for them every year?
One of my New Year's resolutions is to say yes. Yes to love, yes to life, yes to staying in more.
So I don't just want to tell you that New Year's resolutions are a scam, because I actually think it's a scam that plays into the way that we think about productivity, it plays into the way that we think about our goals, and it plays deeply into how we think about ourselves. I want to talk about the scam of New Year's resolutions, why we fall for it, and what we can do instead. Now, in order to understand why New Year's resolutions are so appealing that we fall for them every year, I want to talk about the idea of the rational self. The idea is that we tend to see ourselves, or like to think of ourselves, as being, primarily speaking, rational. See, other people, they might be irrational, right? They might do things that they haven't thought through or believe things that they haven't really reasoned out. But you and I, we're rational, we're different. We're the people who do things because we know what's happening. We like to think things through and have a clear plan, and we always do all the things that we say we're gonna do, right?
It's that easy? That's not a resolution, that's just something I want to do. Okay, fine. I can do that. My resolution is meet a loose woman.
That's a good one.
Yeah?
You know what? That's my new one. I'm taking that one too.
Awesome.
Now, that makes sense that we think of ourselves that way because we live inside of our own heads. We're perpetually forced to be living out our own stories. We don't get the luxury of seeing ourselves from a third-party perspective. But see, if we take a step back, I think we inherently know that it's not entirely true. See, while there are parts of us that are rational, and there certainly are things that we have chosen, I think any kind of objective knowledge of self requires knowing that some of the things that we do just aren't that rational. But see, by irrational, I don't necessarily mean illogical. I just mean that not all of our actions and choices and desires and likes and dislikes are born from a place of active, rational choice. Instead, many of those things are in some ways thrust upon us. They come from our childhood or our personality or our genetics or just the world at large around us. A lot of the things that we like and dislike, the things that make us angry and sad, are immediate reactions that our rational brain has to react to. See, New Year's resolutions, I think, plays into this part of ourselves that wants to believe that we could be rational all the time.
I am gonna do one thing I have never done before. That, my friends, is my New Year's resolution.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah?
Mine is to pilot a commercial jet.
That's a good one too, Phoebes. Now all you have to do is find a plane load of people whose resolution is to plummet to their deaths.
And that's not just dangerous because it's wrong. It's not just dangerous because it's inaccurate. I think it's dangerous because when we start seeing ourselves as being, strictly speaking, rational, that is, rational all the time, then the only explanation for failing your goals results in shame.
Shame.
See, if you really are rational all the time, if you really do choose your own moods and your own settings and the context of your life, and you're in charge of all of that with your rational brain, then why is it that you failed your goal? Well, clearly it must just be that you didn't want it enough, or didn't think it through far enough, or didn't try hard enough, because those become the only explanations. See, that's why I think New Year's resolutions are a scam. And they're a scam that doesn't just rip us off, they're a scam that leaves us feeling as if us not accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish is our fault. In fact, in doing that, it creates this form of vicious cycle. We tell ourselves that our goals are something that we have to push ourselves internally. We just need to try harder. And so we try harder and we muscle down, and it works for a couple of days. And then other parts of ourselves take over and we fail our goal. So then, well, what do we have to do the next time around? Well, we have to try even harder. We have to take every opportunity for a new start and beat ourselves up even more, because clearly beating ourselves up as much as we did last time didn't work. So the answer must be trying more, pushing a little bit harder, or trying some new form of New Year's resolution.
She does this every year, you know.
Excuse me, who are you?
I'm her old year's resolution. Hey, and let me warn ya, you ain't gonna last.
When is the madness gonna end? At what point in time are we going to look around and say, you know, not only have I, for the most part, not accomplished my own New Year's resolutions, but most of the people I know didn't accomplish theirs either. At what point in time are we going to go from beating ourselves up for only lasting for a month to instead saying, maybe this whole system is broken. Maybe New Year's resolutions are a scam.
Everyone who makes New Year's resolutions is the same. She'll tell you that she loves you and that she's committed, but come February, she's gonna forget about you the second that somebody hands her a glass of house red. House red? House red!
See, there is a better way. I'm not gonna tell you that buying the Hero's Journal is the better way. I'm not gonna tell you that there's some kind of magic antidote in some product or something else. Instead, I want to propose an idea. The idea that we could go from viewing ourselves as primarily rational to viewing ourselves as primarily irrational. See, it also means that you get to start treating yourself a little bit more reasonably. You can stop thinking about yourself as if you're some Ubermensch who does all the things you want to do all the time and start understanding that just like the rest of us, you're a flawed human being who sometimes gets up and does everything they want to do with their goal and other times gets up and plows through a whole box of Captain Crunch. See, that's the part of this that's so much better than just a better form of New Year's resolution. This isn't just about changing your goal. It's about learning to comprehend this whole side of ourselves that we tend to not acknowledge. It's not just about accomplishing a better goal, it's about learning to recognize and embrace the parts of yourself that oftentimes seem to get the most in the way. See, the best part about all of this is you don't actually have to wait for January 1st to get started. Maybe you're watching this and it's January 5th and you're doing great with your resolutions. Awesome. Maybe you're watching it and it's the middle of August or some year in the future. So if New Year's resolutions suck, what is it that we can do instead? And I think that by viewing ourselves as primarily irrational, there's 5 things that we can do to better pursue our goal. And the first is to observe. Let's say your goal was to get in better shape. So maybe in the context of a New Year's resolution, it would be, I'm gonna go for a run every single day, or I'm only gonna eat kale and plantains for the rest of my life, or some other ridiculous goal that involves a really high level of willpower and a lot of overnight change.
Don't say it. Don't you say it.
Left.
Come on!
And what if instead you just said, you know what? I'm gonna start paying attention to myself as if I don't actually understand myself. I'm gonna pay attention to what it is that I'm eating or when it is that I'm motivated to work out versus when I'm not. I'm gonna approach that from the standpoint as if I was a detective in my life trying to figure out why it is that I act the way that I act. See, the second thing that you can do when you begin to observe yourself a little bit more objectively is you can begin to write a plan. You don't just plan as if you're the person who could just overnight change everything. You plan as if you're a person who was trying to help yourself out. You can begin to create a plan for the change that you want to see in your own life. You go from thinking of yourself as an only rational person who does all the things you say you're going to do to instead thinking of your rational self like a detective, like it's one little part of your brain whose job isn't to control but to understand. 3, you can focus. See, when your rational brain is in charge of building the plan instead of executing it, you can try to focus on what really matters. See, for any goal, there's thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not millions of things that you could do, but not all of them are actually going to help you and your unique circumstances. Some of those things could be simple, some of them could be involved. I'm not saying that if you want to get in better shape, you shouldn't work out every day.
You got another 5 miles, then you get a Luna bar.
Come on.
What I am saying is that if you were, again, somebody who was trying to help yourself out, a paid consultant in your life, you wouldn't tell yourself to do things that you know you couldn't do. Instead, you would focus on the things that are most important. 4, you can track what is happening. See, we as humans, we've talked about this on this channel before, have a problem in that we're forced living our own stories. It's hard to get that perspective about yourself, to be the detective examining your own life. But when you begin to see yourself as primarily irrational, you can begin to see the ways in which you've actually changed. See, there's this really dark side of New Year's resolutions where if your goal is to work out every day, well, you could work out 6 days of the week and miss one of them, and that's probably the thing you're gonna be obsessed with. I think when you see yourself as primarily irrational, you're being a little bit more objective about observing yourself, you might actually be more excited about the fact that you actually worked out for 6 of the 7 days. You wouldn't care so much that you didn't check the box on one of those days. Instead, you would know that the most important thing to do would be to keep going. 5, and finally, you can celebrate. See, when you see yourself from a little bit more of an objective standpoint, you treat yourself as if you were somebody you were helping out along the way, then you get to celebrate that change and progress in your own life as if it was one of your friends. See, if one of your friends started a business or kept a budget for the first time or lost some weight or got in shape, they accomplished one of their goals, you would probably be over the moon excited for them. And yet, so many people accomplish their own goals and then find it to be kind of meaningless because they don't necessarily know what part of themselves they were trying to change in the first place or what impact it really has in their life. Now, shaping up into 2021, you might be watching this video because you wanted a solution to the New Year's resolution. And I don't necessarily have one because I don't just want to replace it. I don't want you to just have a better goal setting method. Yes, I think habits are a far better focus than a goal. And there are tons of books and productivity tools and resources like the Hero's Journal that could help you accomplish a goal. But I'm not gonna recommend any of those things. I'm not gonna recommend another productivity tool or something that's gonna pragmatically help you. Instead, I want to recommend a New Year's resolution. And I realize that's completely against everything I just said. But if you're going to resolve to do anything, I would resolve to begin to apprehend yourself. If there's an area of your life that you've always wanted to change, maybe you don't have to just hustle harder and muscle down and try to understand exactly what's happening, but maybe there's a reason why you've had a lot of trouble changing that part of your life. And maybe if instead of assuming that that part of your life was broken and a source of shame, maybe you could assume something else was happening, that there was a less rational reason for what's happening behind it, and that if you became the detective, you began to sleuth out what story informed your personal belief about that area of your life, that would be a worthwhile endeavor. It would be the kind of endeavor that wouldn't just result in accomplishing a goal, but result in a sense of real change. Change in the way that you view yourself, the ability to embrace some part of yourself you might not even know exists yet. Real change to your story.
Is it true? Do you plan to ditch me after 1 month and then go off with some new New Year's resolution next year, huh? I mean, do you even plan to read 1 book per month?
Listen, baby, I can explain,
No.
okay? I'm just a little
No.
lazy.
I'm done. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching that. My name is Zach from the Hero's Journal. I have failed a lot of New Year's resolutions and have been thinking about this topic for a long time. So I hope it was helpful for you and that there were some clear steps you can take forward. So whether you're watching this in January of 2021 or someday in the future, we actually created a free resource called Kickstart Quest. Kickstart Quest is a 7-day PDF. You can download it for free, link below. It's got just simple exercises and reflection questions that can help you get back on track with yourself if you've just kind of been feeling like you're in a rut or just looking for a little bit of change or want something more in your life. So you can download that below for free in the bio. We created the Hero's Journal to help people become the hero of their story, to understand how stories and their favorite fandoms actually play out in every day of your life. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link in bio, theheroesjournal.co. Finally, we make videos every week talking about goal-setting science, story theory, and how they play out in our lives. So if this video is helpful or interesting to you, hit subscribe, hit like, and we'll see you next week.